Is that the right button? Oh, it must be. Hi and welcome to the first Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast of 2019. It is Paul here with...
Dan.
Sean.
Just the three of us this week.
Yay.
Put together at, we'll say last minute, but there was news on a Monday that I suppose we really have to talk about.
It was surprising, actually, because we got the inkling this morning that there would be news on the Monday, and we thought, nah, it's not going to happen. They'll hover and they'll hold it back.
I think when the Formula One website is saying this might happen...
That is surprising, isn't it, when there's rumours and the F1 website decides, we'll tell you about these rumours.
And then all of a sudden, Ferrari issue a statement about 4 o'clock this afternoon, Arrivederci is out. Which, to be honest, it's been coming since probably around about June last year.
I think round about the time the person who hired him died.
Yeah, because he only managed... The rumour is that he only managed to stay on at Ferrari because Marchione had died and they didn't want to rock the boat too much. But apparently Marchione wanted him out and get the replacement in, whose name
is in a different tab.
Yes.
Mattia Bonetti?
Yes.
Binotto, who was Chief Technical Officer.
Yeah,
I think
he's
he
had
was-
a lot of different jobs with
He was
Ferrari.
responsible for the engine designer. Am I right in thinking that?
He's had a few different roles. I think he joined their test team at first, way back when.
I think that's how everyone used to start in F1 back in the 90s.
He worked up there. He worked on the race as a race engineer for a bit, I think, and then he was in charge of power unit and KERS once upon a time, and then he replaced, what was his name, James Allen.
James Allison.
James Allison, that's the
No,
one.
James Allen's the guy who sits down doing what we do.
Yes. Yes.
Barged me out of the way to get an espresso at Silverstone last year.
Oh, good for him. So yeah, he's sort of started very much entry level, but has always been in and kind of worked his way up and has always been engineering and technical. So he's quite a hands-on guy, I think, for a team principal.
Yeah, people are comparing him to... He's going to be the new Ross Brawn because he was really the last...
well, that's no pressure, is it?
Not at all. Because Ross Brawn was the last engineering guy that they had as the team principal. He didn't do bad.
He kind of did all
He
right.
didn't do so badly.
But of course, Arrivederci came from a sales and marketing and business background. SIG salesman.
Yeah.
Lot of
We can't say fag salesman because of the amount of Americans that listen to
Yeah,
this.
a lot of speculation as well that Benotti and Arrivederci have been a bit not getting on so well recently.
And a bit of speculation about Arrivederci and Vettel as well.
Oh, really? That I've missed, but...
Well, Vettel being the fervent non-smoker that he is. Sorry. Yeah, it's once again we're starting a year with interesting times at Ferrari. I mean, they basically imploded last year.
Yes.
Yeah, they were looking... We'll do the review in a bit, but they were looking like strong contenders. And then a couple of weeks later, they weren't.
And no one knows why, but there was rumours of firings mid-season again, which... That was Marchione's trademark all the time while he was there, because we always used to say that he managed by fear, and nobody knew if they were going to be in the same job from one week to the next. And obviously under the new Ferrari regime, that is... I'll say it's still going on, but I think this is going to be the only big change that we get at Ferrari during the course of this year. I'm going to stick my neck out and make a bold prediction for that.
Ooh, crazy. 7th of January and the bold predictions are happening.
Oh yeah. I'm all over that one this year.
Wonderful.
You don't think that the new guy's going to come in and want to make a bit of a mark?
From what I've sin across various sites on the internet, some of them even reputable.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
Not ours, then.
Not ours. A lot of the hardest workers in the team last year were the ones that were on his side in his battle with Arrivederci. And basically, Ferrari was split into two factions between the two sides of... You can't even say the two sides of the garage, but the Arrivederci's men and the new guy's men. And maybe, I don't know, this might be a sort of attempt at bringing everyone together and actually succeeding for once.
Is it interesting as well that they've gone with an engine guy just before the new engine regs are coming in?
I think that is very valid because he's going to be the one representing Ferrari at the... I was going to call it Competition Commission then, but that's the NFL that has that. Whatever the F1 equivalent is, the strategy group.
That's the one.
He's going to be the one representing Ferrari at the strategy group, and he's going to have his thoughts on what the power units should be for 2021.
And he'll actually know what he's talking about, in theory, compared to some of the others.
Yeah.
But I seem to remember when he moved up to CTO, there was a fair bit of criticism about them getting an engine guy in when there were going to be a load of aero changes. Do I remember that right?
Yes, but the aero changes seem to be taking more of a backseat in 2021 now, because they're what's being brought in this year and next year. And then 2021, we've got the new engine formula working on what's effectively going to be 2020's aero. So
So it might work out well for
it
them.
could work out well. I mean, Ferrari's aero department has been traditionally pretty good.
Moving him up as well, that makes a vacancy one step below. They could put an aero guy as their...
An
new-
aero guy's
to replace him.
CTO. Don't know, can't remember who's in charge of Ferrari's aero.
No.
Nope.
I would guess an Italian.
That is probably the case.
A wild stab there.
And with Ferrari's website being as it is, don't have a clue. Oh, Loic Bigor.
Oh, that sounds French.
Yes, he is French.
Wow.
He was Williams' aerodynamicist, chief aerodynamicist there until 2007 when he moved to Honda. And he was also the aero guy at Braun.
I was going to say, so have Braun owned him at some point?
Yes.
He just followed Ross Braun about.
Pretty much, yeah, that's why he's at Ferrari now. Oh, no, you're not allowed to say that anymore.
If he was the aero guy at Honda around 2007, he will have been heavily involved in the championship-winning Braun car, won't he?
Yes.
Oh, so will he have invented, like, what was it, the
The
stalling
double
rear
diffuser.
wing and, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been given the impression that that was Ross Braun's invention. But
He headed the team of designers probably,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't think one man can do it on his own unless he's Adrian Newey, and he still needs someone to sharpen his pencil. Where did he go from there? He went to Mercedes in 2012. So yeah, he's had a pretty decent career.
or stayed... Oh, no. Wait, if he was Honda then Braun, he would have stayed at Braun
Yeah,
to be in Mercedes.
when Braun became Mercedes, when the Brackley team changed again.
Yeah.
Stayed at Mercedes for 3 years and went to Ferrari from there.
So he left about the same time as Ross Braun.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think he's probably looking at it. He's probably my tip for chief technical officer now.
There we
now
go.
you say it
We
like
found him. Well, Ferrari, we've saved you a job there.
that. Yeah. Don't bother interviewing him. Just send us the finder's fee. Right. What else have we got? Niki Lauda. Sad to report, is back in hospital again with flu apparently this time after another trip to Ibiza.
Yeah, stop going to Ibiza, Niki Lauda. It's not good for your chest.
It's where he got the pneumonia that caused him to have the lung transplant in the first place. And now he's come back with flu and is in hospital again. I'm sure everyone will join us in wishing him well.
Yes.
Yeah, get well soon, Nicky.
All right, somebody else, obviously, who everyone is sending the best wishes to, Michael Schumacher. It was his 50th birthday this week.
Last
Happy
week.
birthday,
Last
Michael.
week.
Last week.
It's
a new week.
I'm not used to this Monday business. Come on, I've had 4 weeks off. I don't know what Monday
It's
is
a new
anymore.
calendar as well, I think. It's still...
No, we've still got last year's. You've still got R2D2 saying it's December
you say
above
you're
your
going
head.
to the sale to buy a new one and you haven't, so...
I didn't get a chance to go out today. I'll do it some. We're having a domestic live on the show. Yeah, Michael Schumacher turned 50, and his family released a statement to say that they have are giving no information on his condition, which is kind of what we've come to expect because they've just been incredibly private ever since, and that is their choice to do that.
Yeah,
and
that's fair enough.
You can't take it away from them. But they have launched an app, which I only found out about tonight when Sean
Because I
mentioned
mentioned it in passing, and now I'm expected to know what it's about. I think it was something
Am
to
I
do
gonna
with...
be Googling
it's like
this?
I think it's meant to be like a digital museum of all of his trophies and his achievements.
Don't
and
Google it, Paul. Install it.
something
Review
of
it.
that ilk, but don't quote me on that.
Probably can't install it because we have problems installing apps over here.
Not available in your country.
Yeah, that's the one.
Like F1 TV.
Yes. Yeah, are they ever going to get around to fixing that?
Probably not.
No, that's true.
But I think, is it not broken for everyone anyway?
By all accounts, yes. Right,
Schumacher,
the official Schumacher app. Yeah, it appears to be a virtual tour around the Michael Schumacher Museum. You get to see every car that he ever drove in F1 from the Jordan in the 92-91 season, right up to the Mercedes and everything that he's done in sports cars. I'm assuming there's going to be highlights on there of various races and various performances from him.
Do you reckon they've got his rodeo stuff on there as well?
Rodeo
Oh,
stuff?
I'm sure. Is it not him that his wife was big into rodeo, so he does some rodeo, or did some rodeoing?
I completely missed this.
I'm sure I remember this being a feature on either BBC or Sky where they went with him in between races and he did some rodeo stuff. But I'm sure the wife is very big into keeping horses and... Not horses. Yeah, horses.
Yeah,
it would be horses.
Horses are what you normally
you
do
use.
rodeo on. On that or
Yes, they
I
still
am
do.
full of useless information tonight.
There is a picture that I am looking at. I'll share this link of Mrs. Schumacher appearing to do something that looks like a handbrake turn on a horse, dressed as a cowboy. So obviously rodeoing.
Oh yeah, no, you've got to be a full kit wanker if you're going to do the rodeo.
That is incredible. That beats launch porn. You see, I don't remember what happened last year.
It's one of them new things that you learn every day.
I mean, everyone's got to have a hobby, but...
Also, the fact that they were taking part in a rodeo in France, which means France is into rodeos as well. This is an education for me tonight. I don't know about anybody else. Yeah, where do you go from there? Keep fighting, Michael, and yeehaw to the rest of the family. If there's anyone in the south of the US, I am deeply sorry. And also, happy birthday to Lewis Hamilton, 34 going on 6.
Has he put any pictures online today to see, so we can see how he's celebrating?
Let's have a look.
I reckon wearing some atrocious outfit,
It's usually his thing.
but somewhere warm and sunny with the beautiful people.
Let me see. Can't see anything new. Then again, Instagram's his weapon of choice, isn't it?
I think he does the Snapchat. I think he's quite prolific on that.
If we had Chris here, he'd be able to tell us because he follows him on
3
Snapchat.
3 hours ago, I think I saw.
3 hours ago, a gym photo.
Oh, so he is.
Yep, gym photos, even on his birthday. I'm not going.
Good way to spend
dedication.
your birthday.
I am not
Dedication.
going to the gym next week. Moving swiftly on, right, we've got the second Formula E race of the 2018-19 season next week. And of course, there's lots of F1 or ex-F1 interest in that. And they're also having a rookie driver's test with a Leclerc
Yes,
driving one of the cars.
The other Leclerc.
The other one.
Arthur, who did French F4 last season, first time not doing karts, did reasonably well, I think was 5th, and he's something to do with the Venturi team, which is the Massa team. He's part of their young drivers
driver
thing.
program.
But of course they have some kind of sort of tie-in with Mercedes. I think they're part of the same. There's someone who owns...
It's HWA that's the Mercedes
they're
tie-in.
not directly
but-
part of Mercedes, but they're kind of part of the same family.
I just wonder if we'll be seeing Ferrari branding on the Venturi cars if they've got potential for Leclerc. And don't forget, Massa's got history with Ferrari as well, obviously.
Very true.
Yeah, I know we've only had one race this season with the Gen 2 cars, but what's everyone thought so far about the new Formula E? Because we can call it new now because everything's changed about it.
Yeah. The cars look fantastic. The is it called the attack zone?
Yes, the
Yes.
thing where you go offline. and-
Yeah.
The Mario Kart bits.
But the Mario Kart bit, it's a bit gimmicky and wasn't as impressive as I'd hoped. It wasn't as Mario Karty as I hoped it'd be.
I think the problem with the first race is they'd put it on the inside of an exit from a corner, so you had to lose a lot of speed going into the corner to run over the attack zone and pick up the boost, they might probably alter
Someone
that.
kept missing it as well, about 3 laps in a row. I can't remember who it was, but you have to be in a specific bit right at the
Yeah.
exact time. And 3 laps in a row, he
Was
was
it
like half a
Stoffel
wheel.
who missed it?
I don't think it was Stoffel. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird race last time because
Yeah.
they'd had the rain in qualifying, which you don't tend to get in the desert.
Which is why they hold the desert races when they do outside of the rainy season. But what was
Abu
it?
Dhabi Grand Prix,
Yeah.
Qatar World Superbikes.
Yep, and now this one. Let's just have a look. I do remember somebody missing it quite a lot, but
I think the problem is because it's still quite early in the season. I can't actually remember the field.
nope, I'm not entirely sure. Of course, with all the might have been Jerome D'Ambrosio. I seem to recall he was struggling a bit, but yeah, Stoffel suffered in his first race.
Started really well in 5th and then went backwards, and there were some bad tactical calls as well that didn't help him.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of improving to do. I mean, obviously,
He's not had any off season though as well. I think is worth remembering. There was like 3 weeks between Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and suddenly having to be in this new car, whereas I think some of the others have had a little bit more downtime.
I think everybody else got pretty much a full amount of pre-season testing. But yeah, Stoffel kind of straight into the car after driving a different car. Can you call last year's McLaren a car? We'll talk about that in a bit. And then finished. Where did he actually finish up? Qualified in 5th, started 4th on the grid because just to make Formula E closer to F1, they brought in grid penalties. And then in the race, dropped to 15th. 20 seconds behind.
Yeah, it wasn't a good race for him.
Got to say that for one more time before the next F1 season starts. But that's going to be on over the weekend, and I'm sure we'll be about on various forms of social media. And if I get round to it, might be live blogging it because I've still got to test this new software out that I've not installed yet because Christmas kind of got in the way, and
It does that, doesn't it?
there was this bottle of port
And now there isn't.
which got replaced on Christmas Eve because it disappeared. Moving swiftly on.
Is it near that missing cheese?
Might be.
Oh, we've still got half a fridge of cheese.
It was cheap. It was on sale. I like cheese. Race of Champions weekend after next as well.
With F1 drivers again this year.
Yes.
After they were all scared off last year by the Pascal Wehrlein debacle.
Yeah, I think what they've done for the 2019 version is got rid of those 3-wheel, 2-seat
Was it the Radicals?
death
Is that
traps.
what they were
Yeah,
called?
I think it was the Radical.
Which, so it was 2017, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wehrlein flipped one and broke his back and missed 2 races and then ended up losing his drive at the end of the year. And
Yeah.
no one has seen him since.
It was in DTM,
He was.
which unfortunately the picture quality of the UK DTM coverage is that bad, even on legitimate TV. That you can't even see him on that. Let's have a look at the lineup for this year's Race of Champions because
It's a familiar lineup for Germany. They have Vettel and Mick Schumacher.
right.
Because Vettel and Michael Schumacher were
They
very
were,
much...
they were pretty common for quite a few years in there. The UK is David Coulthard.
As always.
Is that it? Mexico, Esteban Gutierrez. So
Why?
because somebody's
How
got,
many drivers have Mexico got?
they are hosting it. They're
Oh,
allowed
I
to put in
see,
as many
I
as they want.
see.
It is in the it's in the baseball stadium section of the Autodromo.
Can we just quickly
Rodriguez.
talk about the fact that Pato Ward is Mexican? He has the most Irish name on the planet.
Patricio Pato O'Ward. That's Who the heck is he?
He does Indy Lights, but I think he did a couple of wild cards in IndyCar last year. I remember his name and thinking they must have the wrong flag.
Nope, he is definitely Mexican. Born in Monterrey. The one in Mexico, not the one in California.
Not the cheese.
Not the cheese one either. Let's have a look who else is in there. The Nordic team, Tom Christensen, he's a regular in there.
He usually comes with a good overall as well, doesn't he, for this? He usually has something a bit special.
It was like Save the Elephants last year.
I'm sure
and
that was
he had
him.
a big silver elephant on his black overalls. It looked very striking.
Nice.
Got to admit that one. And Lucas de Grassi, ex-Formula One, current Formula E driver, he'll be taking part for Team Brazil, along with Helio Castroneves. And the US has got Ryan Hunter and Joseph Newgarden. Right, they've won then. I think Team GB needs to get somebody in alongside David Coulthard.
Yes.
Well, DC retired from racing
Yeah, he's not...
several years ago,
He's
didn't
not
he?
an actual driver anymore, is he, really? Aside from doing stunts with Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we not have more drivers than that? I thought we did.
Jensen Button's at a
Max
loose...
Chilton.
Jensen Button's at a loose end. Super GT season's
Julian
finished.
Palmer, maybe not.
Ah,
Maybe this is why.
No, as Jenny Gow said, he's not bothered about driving anymore. She did say that 5 weeks ago. God, is it that long?
Yeah.
Somebody say something, because none of us have spoken for about a month.
We've forgotten how to do this, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm just hoping this laptop still works. But it should be a good one, and with it being in Mexico, it'll be on at a reasonable time for British and American viewers. So to anyone in sort of out east, sorry.
So that's the weekend after next.
That's the weekend after next, weekend of the 19th
To be fair,
and 20th.
there are no entrants out east, so there's no interest like east of
Britain, Germany.
Yeah. Which seems strange.
Yeah, I'm sure that lineup will probably change in the next few days. Right, I think that's about all that we're scraping around in the news for this week. Shall we talk about last season?
Do we want to maybe talk a little bit about launch dates? Some of them are starting to come
I suppose,
out.
yeah.
Renault, I think, are leading at the moment with 12th of February. I think they're the earliest at the moment.
Yes.
So just over a month away.
Yes. Obviously, not everyone's got their dates out yet, so there could be one. Haas, I think, was it Haas last year that just dropped a car and no one knew about it?
Yeah.
It was just, here's the car.
Yeah, here's what it looks like. See ya.
But they're all that week, aren't they? I think there's Renault, then
McLaren
there's
are Valentine's Day,
McLaren
aren't
and
they?
Valentine's Day. I think
After their poem.
Racing Point, are we still calling them Racing Point at the moment?
We
We
haven't got
are,
any- we
because
haven't got
that's their name at the moment.
We haven't got
For
anything
now.
else to call them. Team. Huh?
Team thing.
Yeah. What was it? They're going on the.
They're the 13th.
They're the 13th.
And I think that's it at the moment,
f-
possibly.
didn't
Ferrari?
Ferrari-
Ferrari are the 15th, and then testing starts on the 18th. So I think there's usually a couple of teams leave it until at the track, don't they? Essentially, here it is. There it goes.
Yeah, Toro Rosso and Williams have launched at the first test in the past.
Yes.
Williams launched virtually last year because it was everyone thought that they were seeing the car at the launch event, but it was actually
It was
wasn't
like a
even
hologram, wasn't it? It was
it wasn't
a bit weird.
Yeah, it wasn't even a photo of the car. It was a rendering of the car on the screens, so nobody got to see it. Red Bull are yet to announce. I'm sure they'll do some massive event, including fire and skateboards and
And an exciting livery that you never see again.
yeah. What? Yeah, can they just do something that isn't the same dark blue? Just
Probably not. For marketing
It'd
reasons,
be
probably
nice.
Just
Sauber were pretty early last year, weren't they?
No, it was 2 years ago that they were one of the earliest because they had the 25th anniversary car.
No, last year when they had the Sauber tie-up, they were pretty quick out of the starting blocks, if I remember right.
Don't forget that they've got Kimi driving next season, so
It'll be when Kimi
they'll
says.
do it
Yeah.
when they're ready. Yeah. What's the car like? A moment of Kimi speak.
Yes.
So yeah, we've got all those to come. We are going to be covering as many of those as possible. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to one or two of them if
Hint,
things
hint
play out
for
right.
invite.
Yeah. So if there's any press officers from any of the teams listening to this right now, you know where to get in touch with us. On Twitter at 3legs4wheels or 3legs4wheels at gmail.com, just in case you didn't. Right then. So finally, we get round to the 2018 season review.
We're just about still closer, I think, to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix than the Australian Grand Prix. So
That's
I
a
think we're
start.
okay. I think we're okay.
Yeah, pesky season starting 2 weeks earlier or a week earlier or whatever it is and finishing later. And Another dominant one by Mercedes because they were, by the end of the season, they were first in a field of one.
It was dominant at the end, but up until just after Belgium, you couldn't tell who had the upper hand, could you?
Not really, no, because, Ferrari were...
Mounting a serious challenge.
They were looking good.
It's the first time in a long time that it's looked like Ferrari really could walk away with it.
And then
It fell apart. It was, it was after the summer break. They came back looking so strong in Belgium, and they didn't actually look beatable. And then it seems they lost Sergio Marchionne, unfortunately, and then everything fell apart for them.
Yeah, I think there were cracks, weren't there, at Germany? I think when Vettel
Germany's the obvious
ended
one.
up in the gravel,
And there were a couple of quite bad strategy calls as well. That hurt them.
Mercedes had a little bit of that, didn't they, earlier in the year?
Well, they had Austria where they had a double DNF.
Yeah, they had the safety car issue, or the virtual safety car issue in Australia.
Where Hamilton could have won but ended up...
Yes, they had
not
their
doing.
calculation wrong, or I think they blamed maths, which seems reasonable.
Yes, maths does change all
Maths.
the time.
Numbers!
If you add two things together, who knows what could happen?
And then, of course, Mercedes, another bad one for them was China, finishing 4th and 8th.
Yes.
I can't... Remind me, what went wrong
What, in China?
in China?
Vettel and Verstappen had an issue? That doesn't help with the Mercedes
That doesn't help
thing.
with the Mercedes,
No.
no.
I don't know, because I was at a hen weekend and I didn't watch it live. I only watched it very quickly the next day, so I don't really remember that race very well.
I don't know because it was a long time ago.
And it was very early in the morning.
And I
Yeah.
think you were off island as well.
Was I?
Because I ended up doing the podcast and I remember watching it like 5 minutes before I had to go out the door.
Oh, was I over at my dad's?
I think you might have been.
Yeah, you might have been away, and I think me and Chris did the live blog trying to keep each other awake. I think we had a rule: if one of us started to flag, stab the other one in the leg.
It's a good rule.
It must have worked. I think the live blog is still there on the website, so I think we got.
No one knows what it says.
Yeah, I think we got away with that. I should have reread all the
And
blogs before we started.
What happened with Bottas is Ricciardo drove past him. I think Bottas was leading quite late on, I seem to recall, and Ricciardo just charged past as he does.
That was the absolutely insane pass at the end of the long straight under DRS, wasn't it? And
Yes, this was a race after Bottas had possibly had a chance to beat Vettel and just didn't go for it.
And that's when all the questions about is Bottas going to be any good for the rest of the season started cropping up, and the answer turned out to be actually he's just going to be a bit mediocre. Should we do the usual team by team?
I think team by team.
Team by team. And in tradition, we'll start at the back with Williams. What can you say about Williams in 2018 that hasn't already been said?
They might do better next year, or this year now.
They would hope, really, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, was it the car? Was it the drivers? Sergei Sorokin apparently is getting a test in the Formula E rookie test as well. Next week, I think we've seen the last of him in F1. Lance Stroll does show some potential, and we'll get to find out 2019 whether he was better than the car suggested.
I think Sergei Sorokin could have his career rescued if Lance Stroll turns up in the Racing Point and is really, really strong. Because that'll make
they were
Sorokin
quite
look
even.
better by comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, if it turns out that Lance Stroll was terrible, then that means Sorokin must have been as well.
Yeah.
But the car was unreliable. We remember one of the first times we had Craig Scarborough on, he was saying that it was just that finely balanced on the bad side.
Yeah, was there some kind of
Random-
situation
random
where
aero stalling.
when they turned the front wheels, it ruined the aero balance and
Yeah, and close DRS at the end of a straight, but wouldn't get the downforce back from it, and things
Yeah.
like that.
Just obviously
So-
not quite
A horrendous
a
nightmare
good
for
car,
Williams.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be their worst season ever, even going back to that year that they had the Judd normally aspirated engines in the first turbo era. They at least managed to get a podium that year, if I remember rightly, but they didn't look anywhere close to it this time
A
round.
season to forget.
Anyway, McLaren. Talking of seasons to forget.
And McLaren next.
Technically, no. It's actually Toro Rosso. Where are we counting Racing Point / Force India? Because they should be 11th technically, and
7th.
7th, and if you do maths, 4th.
Should we take them 7th?
We'll take them.
That's the
We'll take them
official
7th. That's
standing,
what we've
isn't
got
it?
on it. So Toro Rosso.
Mixed bag.
What is the point of Toro Rosso these days?
Well, in 2018, the point of Toro Rosso was to test the crap out of a Honda engine and get it ready for a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than doing that with the drivers, that's what Toro Rosso was last year. It was a test team just for parts rather than people.
But moving into 2019, I know this is one for the preview show that we'll do in a few weeks' time. It's not that anymore. But the 2018 Toro Rosso was an experiment for Red Bull and it was an experiment for Honda, just to get some reliability. I'm not sure if it worked or didn't work, because it was that hard to tell with everything that they were throwing at the car.
They'll know, won't they? They'll have the data. They'll know
Yeah.
I mean,
what that means to them.
they didn't have as many issues as McLaren had in the previous 3 years with the Honda engines. So that's a positive to take from it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it certainly seemed to get more reliability, and I think towards the end of the year they were trying sort of more high performance stuff as well to see how much power they could get from it. So depending on if they can put all that together, if they can have a more powerful engine and a more reliable engine, then it will have been a good year for Red Bull.
Sadly, not such a good year for Brendan Hartley, because I think he was distracted quite a lot of the year by all the rumours. Was he going to see the season out?
Yeah, he had very few standout races.
I think that's the best. That's the best and kindest way of putting it.
I think when we look back on the F1 career of Brendan Hartley, I think I'll just remember him as the most unlucky person on the planet. He got rear-ended in Monaco by Charles Leclerc, not his fault. He got wiped out in Canada by Lance Stroll, not his fault. His teammate took him out, I think, in China, spun him out of a points position. Everything seemed to find him.
Nearly got taken out by his teammate in Baku.
I think that was his fault, to be fair.
He wasn't looking.
He changed line and Gasly was on the hot lap behind him, but Hartley just had no luck. I don't know what the hell was
you
up
say
with him.
he had no luck.
Oh, he had a lot of bad luck, to be fair.
He wasn't looking like he was going to go anywhere near Formula One, and then one day they said, you'll do. Sit in this car, will you?
I don't know if that was luck so much as it was a super license.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be very happy with having driven an F1 car in their career.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got to do it 24 times,
Yeah.
which, to be honest, is more than some drivers that have been in the Red Bull organisation have managed to do, even when they got to F1.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? Christian Klein? I don't think he managed a full season. He kept getting replaced. Gasly obviously did well enough to impress Dr. Marco and get a promotion to the big boy team to replace the departing Danny Rick.
He looks like a decent, solid driver.
Yeah, very good result in Bahrain.
Yeah. I mean, getting a Toro Rosso into 4th.
Yeah. Where was it he got the 6th? Was that Hungary?
Let's have a look. I think you may be right. You are right. Yep, 6th in Hungary, 7th in Monaco. So
Some good results.
yeah.
In a car that really was not challenging for points all that often unless something went wrong in front of them.
What was going wrong with the Toro Rosso was usually behind Gasly because it was Hartley's
Hartley.
car that failing on him. I'll be interested to see where Toro Rosso go in the future, because now that Red Bull, moving forward, have got a young lineup, it's obviously not going to be the place for young drivers entering F1 in the Red Bull organisation to go anymore.
The problem is none of their
not
young
for a
drivers are ready, is the issue. With the exception of Dan Ticktum, who probably could be ready, but because he was a twat in Formula 4, hasn't got enough points for a licence.
Which is why he's going to New Zealand over the next few months to do the series there, which if he wins, he'll have enough points for a super licence.
Too late though, isn't it?
Well,
Albon's in now.
Just in case anyone gets binned off mid-season.
So like Fiat when Verstappen needs a win.
Who's driving for Toro Rosso this year? Who do we have next? We have Sauber.
Are they really that close to the back?
It's very tight in the middle, I think, wasn't it?
They were
Yeah.
8th with 48 points, just behind technically Racing Point with 52 and McLaren with 62.
I would say it was a brilliant year for Sauber.
Very good year for
Compared
Sauber, I think.
compared to the last few years, that was far better than they could have imagined, because they've gone from 3 seconds a lap off the pace
To up there.
scoring points in, let's have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Two-thirds of the races, Sauber were in the points. There was at least one Sauber in there. Okay, you can put a lot of that down to Charles Leclerc being absolutely shit hot.
But Ericsson was.
But Ericsson wasn't
often
an
not far
embarrassment.
behind him.
Yeah, he kept him honest, I think.
I feel bad for Ericsson, because all the years that he's had in F1,
We've slagged him off constantly, and
He's
now
a-
we quite like him.
he's had some crap cars. And let's be fair, he's had some performances that have matched the quality of those cars.
Yes.
But he had a good car this year, and he put some good performances in. So maybe he's just one of those who drives to the level of the car.
He also, I think a lot of it, I think Frederic Vasseur put a lot of it down to him losing some weight as well. I think he said that he'd always been about 10 kilos over. Oh, no, it might not have been 10 kilos, that sounds a bit extreme. But that he'd always been
That's a lot.
a bit overweight, and that he'd got on it in the
Well,
off-season.
He's quite a tall guy, isn't he?
Yes.
So it's
small
easy to
margin
be.
for error.
It's easy to be 10 kilos more than you should be if you're 6 foot something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's about 6 inches taller than Alonso.
Yeah.
I think Ericsson's about 6'1", 6'2", and Alonso's about 5'7". And Alonso does look a lot chubbier than him, but they are the same weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, my voice got stuck then.
But no, I mean, I think that is Sauber's best season since, oh God, probably about 8 years, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
They did have a little staffing debacle, didn't they? Where was it? Someone got fired for being drunk on a flight, allegedly.
Oh yes,
I can't remember who it
I'd
was.
forgotten about that. Yes,
But it was someone quite high up.
Yes, it was one of the chief technology guys.
Yeah, I
wasn't
can't
it?
remember his name, but it was literally the person sat to the right of Vasseur. It was literally his right-hand man in their team photo. But yeah, I think that aside, fairly.
Yeah, and it's good to see him on a sound financial footing as well after the last God knows how many years of, well, ever since BMW left, really. Which, that's what, about 10 years now since BMW went.
And good signing of Raikkonen as well, as soon as he started looking around, realising he was out Ferrari, very quickly in there.
You wouldn't turn him down. You know, it's unfortunate that it's like dumped Marcus Ericsson into a reserve driver role and IndyCar next season. Have we seen the last of Ericsson in F1?
I think he says so, doesn't he? He's said he's very excited to be in IndyCar, and it's a new chapter and the next stage. And
But is
Yeah,
that PR bluster?
I can't see anyone saying, right, we've got a seat. Who's the ideal guy? Marcus Ericsson.
Depends what money he can bring with him. Then again, who needs the money these days? Williams, maybe. In a couple of years.
Possibly, but if he came with enough money, they would have had him this year.
probably
if they
very
wanted
true.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So it looks like we have seen the last of him then, thinking about
Probably yes,
about
but
it.
he will be in IndyCar.
And we like IndyCar now. Don't we, officially as
I
a
think
podcast?
it's
Yes.
growing, isn't it? It's growing
Yeah.
on us.
Yeah, we're being nice to it. Still not too sure about NASCAR apart from that Roval, which was pretty cool. And if they have about 10 more Roval races a season, I will watch more IndyCar than about anyone else.
I'm trying to remember what the Roval is.
They do a lap of the oval, then they do a lap of the road course.
Okay.
Because they coned off about 20 metres of the oval, made them do a very sharp left turn, and then did the whole interior road course, and then put them back on the oval. So it was a road oval, a roval.
Okay. I do not recall this. I've purged it from my memory.
I think
Obviously.
I was watching it on my laptop while you were doing some work or something.
Fair enough.
Damn good chance. Right, 7th place officially Racing Point.
So, do we talk about the two halves of their season, or how do we
well,
go about this?
I don't know, because I mean the form was pretty much
Rough start, wasn't it?
yeah. Took them a while to get going, and
Though that has been the case quite often with the team that was before they became Racing Point.
the new Jaguar,
Yeah,
Jordan. Sorry, Red Bull or Jaguar.
yeah. When they were Force India, quite often they would start slowly, and we'd speculate: are they actually going to make it to the end of the season? We've heard rumours about financial stuff going wrong.
You do know that this is going to be the first year where we're actually not going to be able to say, are Force India or that team going to make it to Barcelona for the test?
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
we've said that since 2014.
Got to assume Lawrence Stroll will pay for them.
But
so I would say another very strong year for them overall.
yeah, I mean the once they got going, which round about Azerbaijan after Perez got that third, you start to see a lot more consistency from him. And it took Ocon a couple more races to pick his game up. He didn't actually score his first points of the season until Austria. But then he was regularly inside the top 10. They didn't get on 100% again this year, though.
No, it was, I think, an easier relationship than last year, or any difficulties were kept a lot more private.
Yeah, they were very public about the on-track issues last time round.
Yeah, I think it might have been a bit easier this year because there was a bit more of a gap between the two drivers. I think the problem last year was that they were so close to each other, and this year Ocon looked a little bit behind Perez, which probably made it a bit easier for the team.
Which is odd because Ocon actually outqualified Perez. I think it was 12-9 in the end.
I
But
wonder if because he's the Mercedes driver, he knows where the party time is.
it could be.
Maybe Perez is not party to that information.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that, actually.
I am joking, but kind of wondering if I've accidentally stumbled upon
you
some
might have
truth.
stumbled on something there. But yeah, I mean, they're in a good position, but even by the time the financial crisis hit,
Yeah,
and it looked at one point like they wouldn't make it to the end of the season.
I mean, they turned up for Spa, and we weren't sure whether or not they were going to be. I think even up to like the Thursday, we weren't sure if they were going to be in FP1 because there was some kind of issue of was it naming rights or the entry right or the chassis, or there was some situation.
well, I think there were lots and lots of protests going on.
So, most famously, the Haas one over is it a new entrant? Is it a bought entry? What is it?
You know
Yeah.
what it is.
What prize money are they getting? I think basically they were arguing over minute wording deficiencies in contracts, which is what lawyers are paid an absolute fortune to do.
Yeah, I think there was an Andrew Benson article about this that we
Yes.
talked about on the podcast.
This rings a bell.
Yeah, the basic thing about that is Haas wanted to lose that case, but they wanted a judgment that
So that there was like a precedent.
that
going
Racing
forward.
Point was a brand new entrant.
Which means you don't get any prize money for your first 3 years.
They've got a Lawrence Stroll. They probably don't need the prize money.
Well, that's one thing that Lawrence Stroll actually did when the Racing Point consortium, as I think they are officially at the moment, took over the team, is Lawrence Stroll personally paid off all outstanding bills from Sahara Force India. Now, normally that usually goes through a legal process, and there's normally a long period of negotiation for what percentage of the outstanding debt from a liquidated or bought out company or a company in administration will take. But Lawrence Stroll actually just paid everything off just to get on with it.
Yeah, it may well be cheaper and better from the point of view of performance just to pay it all off, get that stuff out of the way, move on.
I think one of the issues was I think wages were involved in that as well, and I think if you're going to be the boss, it's a good idea if you do pay people.
Yes.
It gets them on side, doesn't it?
Well, of course, it was a whole thing about wages that brought the administration in the first place.
Well, yeah, it was precipitated by Sergio Perez, who
was asked by the team.
did it to save the team.
Yeah, because he as a creditor had the ability to put them into the administration to look for a new buyer rather than to seek a winding up process, which I think someone else was looking to do, I think was the story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But because he was owed more, his case
came
because first.
For a while it looked like Sergio Perez was the bad guy for forcing Force India into administration,
Yeah,
and
but
it turned
actually
out
he did it to save them, which is probably why he still has a job.
Wouldn't surprise me. And Ocon posted on Instagram this morning a picture of the Mercedes headquarters saying first day back at work, to which somebody commented, I can't remember who it was, lots of simulator time then.
Although not, because is it not Stoffel Van Dorn that's their sim driver now?
I'm not sure, because
do they only have one simulator?
They probably don't, do they?
I think
Let's be honest, they probably have
have
about
one or two.
10.
But apparently Ocon is going to be simulator driver for all the Mercedes-powered teams.
Oh, I see.
So
'Cause he's also just their reserve driver as well, isn't he?
I think he's going to be
Mr.
sort
Test.
of general Mercedes engine testing guy. General
Pirelli
Mercedes
tyre
engine
test
testing
guy.
Basically what Danny Kvyat was doing at Ferrari.
Oh, okay, I thought there was something about Stoffel had some kind of simulator-only job with Mercedes.
I seem to remember something like that. Yeah,
I read that, but like you said, probably got more than one simulator.
I suppose the more simulations there run, the better.
If Lando
it is.
Norris can put one in his house, a fully functioning, fully staffed Formula One team must have room for more than one.
Billy Munger has one in his house, but he had to pack it away for Christmas so that his parents could get the tree in. Or a table. I think it might have been a big dining room table or something like that. So he was kicking off until all the decorations got put away.
After watching that documentary, they have got that kind of sizable barn conversion house, so there is probably room for a big simulator in there as well as a Christmas tree. Which, does that mean he was just taken over the dining room completely and put a race sim in there?
Possibly.
I want that house. Right, next up, McLaren. 6th place, mainly through the efforts of one driver. Well done, Stoffel.
Fernando Alonso, 6th. Alonso Williams. Not Alonso, what am I saying? Van Dorn. Kind of Williams-esque.
Stoffel got a good start to the year and then didn't actually score another point after Baku.
if you had to say which team did better, McLaren or Sauber, just without looking at
Yeah,
the
you would think it
you
would
would
be
go for
Sauber.
Sauber, wouldn't you?
You would really, because double points finishes, more consistency, most of the time a faster car.
Qualifying was better. I think Leclerc was in Q3 more often than not,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Whereas
So
McLaren
McLaren
couldn't
don't
get...
feel like they've done that well this year, and I don't remember any standout races for them. But
It was
quietly,
all
they've been
those
getting
first
on with
three.
it.
It was just those
Yeah,
first
fo-
3 or 4,
14
wasn't it?
14 points ahead of the next team below them that contested a full season.
How many points did they get up to Baku?
Up to Baku. Oh, I'm going to have to do some adding when they got positions here. A 5th, 3 7ths, 2 9ths, and an 8th. So
Some, but that's got to be most of their points over those 4 races.
In fact, in the first 4 races, The only double points finish they didn't get was in China when Stoffel finished 13th.
And they just seemed not to have developed the car, which was strange because was there not some deal where they had the first few races of the season were last year's car adapted slightly, and then they had a B chassis midway through?
No, they had the A chassis. It was this year's car. But they had to bolt on a lot of parts from last year's because this year's car was terrible.
A new car.
And then the new car came in for, I think it was possibly Japan.
I thought it was earlier.
But they were terrible.
Yes, they I think had a lot of management changes. Boulier went. Gilda Ferran turned up.
Yeah, Zach Brown is reorganising the whole management structure right across the team.
Yeah, Andrea Stella got a promotion, I think.
Yeah, because they need something to do with him now. He's not going to be Fernando's race engineer. All the constant speculation, are they going to put a full entry in for IndyCar next year? No. Are they going to enter the Indy 500? Somehow. What are they going to do with Bob Fernley once the Indy 500's finished? God
Pack
knows.
it into a box.
We've slated McLaren all the way through the season, but they basically built the whole year on the first 4 or 5 races. And I don't know if you can hear Bruno kicking off in the background.
Here he comes.
We are about to be podcasted.
Here he is.
Nope, he's not being very talkative.
So he's very interested in the microphone.
So it looks like McLaren actually had a better go of it at the start of the year than we give them credit for. Because I think we've been slating them all year.
Possibly they just had a lucky start while a few other people were working through teething problems and.
Yeah, I mean you look at Bahrain and both Red Bulls retired, Raikkonen retired. Grosjean took part in the race because Haas obviously finished ahead of McLaren in the constructors. Grosjean had his usual early season kind of thing. Renault weren't spectacular. Yeah. They managed at least, and going on the 3 years of the Honda powered car, at least they managed to get it round the track to the end.
That is true.
Yeah.
Which I think that's basically all they wanted with the Renault power unit in the back.
There were no did not starts for McLaren this year.
It makes a change.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, over the last few years, even going back to the last season with Mercedes engines, they've had trouble actually getting the car on the grid. I mean, do we call it a rebuilding year again? Because how many more can you have?
But are they not rebuilding again this year because they've got a whole new driver lineup and
Yeah,
it'll just get if they're shit again, it'll just get called a rebuilding year again.
they are rapidly becoming the Cleveland Browns of the F1 grid.
That's not good.
But if they can carry on not looking particularly good, but quietly moving up the standings, then that's not too bad a thing.
I mean, it didn't help with Zach Brown saying it could take up to 10 years before you see us win a championship again.
That's what the board want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that pay his wages. And don't forget, he's not a shareholder, he's only an employee.
Oh, that was something that happened this year with McLaren as well. Nicholas Latifi's dad bought a bit of them.
Oh, yes, £250 million
For 10%
investment.
or something like that. So he is a shareholder.
And yet Nicholas Latifi doesn't get the young driver seat. That's gone to Sergio Setti Camera.
I think Lando Norris might have put a little word in
Lando
for his
Norris's
F2
teammate from the season just gone. So McLaren, not as disappointing as we thought they were realistically, but still the perception is they're a team that wins races and championships.
Yeah, they're
And we're saying,
still not where you expect them to be.
and we're saying 6th is an achievement, although technically 7th because...
Although could have been higher if not Van Dorn in the other car. Because
Yeah.
he really was terrible
He
in
was
the
dead.
second half of the
He
season.
was dead man walking for the second half of the season. I think they said that. I think they told him they were letting him go.
Even if they didn't tell him, I think he probably
Quite a
knew.
while
I think it was fairly
before, yeah.
obvious.
But it'll be interesting to see what they come up with in 2019. Like you say, new driver lineup, new car, new management, new structure, new start, new excuses.
Maybe.
Talking of excuses, it was Ericsson that hit me.
Oh,
No, it
Haas.
wasn't.
The binary team.
It wasn't even Ericsson that was directly behind him. It was Leclerc. He didn't even get the right Sauber, and it didn't touch him anyway.
What can you say about Haas apart from it's Grosjean, duck?
I mean,
They-
it's Grosjean duck. It's Grosjean with his illegal car twice.
They should have got better results than they did, because one of the cars was doing pretty well.
Maybe if Haas had have had Van Dorn in the Grosjean car,
Yeah, at least it wouldn't have hit as many things.
including the wall behind a safety car, that's got to be the most embarrassing crash of the year.
I don't know. He has a few strong contenders.
You could.
I think Ocon actually might get it, to be fair. Most embarrassing crash for when he wiped out Verstappen
Oh, possibly.
when he was leading a race
Yes.
and being lapped.
Yes.
Was that Brazil?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty poor.
yeah. That was bad form. I think is the phrase. But Haas looked really strong in Australia, and then they had the wheel gun problem,
Yes.
and both cars had to retire within meters of coming out of
There
the
was
pits.
a lot of that in the early part of the season, wasn't there? Not just Haas. There seemed to be a few cars. Raikkonen had a horrible issue with his mechanic, but there was a few. I think Force India a couple of times. One of them
There
had a
have been
wheel
a
go
few
off.
unsafe
Yeah.
releases.
Yeah,
haven't they?
did you notice by the European part of the season started in Spain, a lot of teams had now reverted to, they didn't have someone with a lollipop, but they had someone stood in front of the car making sure that all the wheels were actually on.
It's helpful.
Rather than the automated
It is
system,
the point
which
of the pit stop. Get your tyres on.
apparently the whole thing was blamed on a loose sensor in the trigger of the wheel gun, where when you pressed it once, it made it look like you pressed it twice. So that actually said that it was clear, and the tyre had been changed.
Ouch.
So
That's not very good.
It was something like a 25p micro switch.
Oh, it always is, isn't it? It's always 50p piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, the bounce back certainly. K-Mag, that's been a great season for him this year.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming?
Nobody.
That has really helped his reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. I don't think we actually used the words, but it kind of fits from every year up to this one. Bit of a seat filler.
Yeah.
The random guy in a tux that just takes somebody's seat at the Oscars when someone gets up to go to the loo, so it doesn't look like there's an empty space there. That's kind of been K-Mag in a racing suit. The Van der Gaard role. But it is his racing
is
suit,
his
not
actual
somebody
suit.
considerably shorter. Oh no, Guido van der Gaard's funny these days, isn't he?
He's the James Blunt, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Magnussen, fantastic performance. Again, he was best of the rest a couple of times.
Yeah, couple of fourths, was it?
Yeah, fourth in Austria and a fifth in Bahrain. Can't see any other fourths on there.
I think the fourth as well. Best ever result for Haas.
Yeah, because I think the best before then was sixth, which was at their first race. And then they've done that another couple of times since. Sorry, no, fifth was their best at the start of the season in Bahrain, which beat their sixth in their debut race. And of course, all the 11th places for Gutierrez when he was driving for them.
I just want to query that chart a little bit that you've got in front of you. I don't think it was Magnussen that got the fourth in Austria. I think it was Grosjean.
No, because
Yeah, I
Grosjean
think that's what I'm saying. I think Wikipedia, editable by anyone, might not be factually accurate. I would double check that. I think it was Grosjean because he'd done fuck all. And then
it was his first points of the season.
it was his first points of the season. I'm sure it was him that got the fourth.
Somebody been playing about with Wikipedia and making things look wrong. Yes,
Scandalous.
it was.
Scandalous.
Yes, it was.
Wikipedia tells you lies.
Regardless of whether he finished fourth or fifth, it did take until Austria for Grosjean to get any points.
You notice none of us questioned instantly that Grosjean might have been better than.
And to be honest, we were asking for most of the season, is he done? And most people were answering yes.
Yeah, he had a really, really weak start to the season. The end of the season, he did a lot better. Looked like a driver.
Yeah. Was
But
actually
still.
in position to be disqualified from the points.
Yeah, his results improved. However, talking about being disqualified, not just because of the car, he very, very close points, penalty points wise, to getting a race ban, and that's something I think is going to carry over to next year.
He's starting 2019 with 9 penalty points, so he's still only 2 off.
Yeah, that's he needs to stop hitting things, or he's gonna end up sitting out a race.
And he was complaining that this point system's bullshit. It was brought in because of him.
No, driving into people is bullshit. That's why you have all the points.
Because he was the last driver to get a race ban for dangerous driving on 4 previous occasions when he tried to decapitate half the entire field in Belgium.
Yeah.
But in general, a much better year for Haas, and let's see what they can do next year if they've got both drivers actually on top of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Grosjean can get points and not hit people, could be a good thing.
And if this year's Magnussen turns up.
Yes.
Yeah, a repeat of this year's K-Mag, and I think Haas could be looking at challenging Renault for 4th.
Definitely.
I think we'll be in there. Obviously, Renault are next in 4th.
Or challenging Renault for 5th, depending on how Racing Point do.
That is true,
And
actually.
depending on how Red Bull do with the Honda, but we are drifting into preview a little bit here.
That is true. We're not gonna do that until there's been at least
Save
one car
that for
launch.
another podcast.
Yeah, it's still a few weeks till the season starts, and we've got a lot of shows to do. So yeah, Renault were technically 4th, 122 points, won the Best of the Rest award. Hulk got the Best of the Rest driver award for finishing 7th.
Not 5th, because Hulk is always 5th.
He's always in 5th at one point, but he qualifies and finishes 7th more than anything else. We've got 1, 2, 3. Only 3 7th places this season, but he qualified in 7th a lot more.
Yes.
Carlos Sainz was possibly the weaker link in the team.
I think so, yeah. He didn't have a season that made him look like a potential future champion, which he has done in the past.
He drove the arse off the Toro Rosso when he was in it, but
He had a hell of a lot more DNFs than Hulkenberg.
yeah, I mean, let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 retirements.
Although again, that's not.
Although again, that's going to be the
not
other way
correct.
round because
Wikipedia's table is shit. Who'd have thought it? Because yeah, it was Hulkenberg, wasn't it, that didn't finish in Abu Dhabi because he was upside down and on fire.
hang on, Carlos Sainz 2.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
Hulk.
excuse
It was
me.
Hulk that had the rest.
Wikipedia again.
Yeah,
I think we better just leave that table.
we'll just leave that one there. It's easier
Just
to
scroll
see.
back to the team one
Yeah.
every now and then.
But yeah, okay, he did. He actually did better than it looked. It was the order that they were putting it in. I think they were putting it in finishing order rather than driver by driver. That's a bit pants. But no, Sainz I think should have done more with what he had available to him.
Yeah.
I think more was expected, wasn't it? It was the first time everyone was thinking, oh, Hulkenberg's actually got a teammate that's going to challenge him after the Jolyon Palmer situation.
Which I don't think you can blame Jolyon Palmer for a lot of the time because he wasn't deliberately setting his car on fire.
And Hulk got first dibs on new parts, didn't he, all the time?
Yeah.
With the Palmer partnership.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that was the case again this season.
Possible.
But yeah, I mean, Sainz was in an opposition contract-wise as well because he was only on loan to Renault. The Red Bull organisation still owned him. God knows what was going to happen to him, and then
then Renault signed Daniel Ricciardo, and he ended up
he ends
in
up,
no man's land, really, didn't he, for a little while?
which
'Cause,
is the same as going to McLaren at the minute.
yeah, it was pretty obvious that Red Bull were going for Gasly, so he wasn't going to go there, and he wasn't staying at Renault. So yeah, I think he came out of the season as good as he could have hoped for, really.
I think the main issue with Renault this year, and this carries over into Red Bull as well, is the engine has just been unreliable, unpredictable.
Not enough power.
Not enough power.
Speed.
Max Verstappen probably described it best when his engineer came on the radio and said, "Any problems with the car?" I was like, "Yes, this lump behind me." So Renault, it goes in cycles with them. Sometimes they have a good engine, sometimes they make a good car, sometimes they do both. Because I think that's been the case with Renault in Formula One every time they've been in Formula One. And we're going back to the days when it was Alain Prost and René Arnoux in the early 80s.
Yeah.
You know, the Renault Turbo was absolutely fantastic. And then it took them 3 years after the Turbo era finished to make a decent, normally aspirated engine, which then worked well with Williams and Benetton. And then they pulled out, and then they were back, and
then they got Alonso.
And then he left, and then they fell off again for a couple of years, and then he came back, and he was good, and the car was all right. It's just been that all the way through. So, did we see it? Every year's a transitional year for Renault, unless they win a championship.
I mean, that's great if you transition to winning a championship. That's what you're going for, really, at the end of the day.
But they've gone from 5th to 4th this time round because the team in 4th lost points for the first 2/3 of the season. Bit Homer Simpson default.
Yes.
Really. I want to see more from them next year.
Yeah.
Yes, particularly now that they've got Ricciardo as well.
Yeah. He says he's bringing the glory days back.
He
Dan,
does
you're a-
like to say a lot
you're-
of things,
you're a
does
Springsteen
Ricciardo?
fan.
So we'll wait and see. Will Courtney Cox be dancing?
Not with the light on. Right, Red Bull. Possibly the sweariest year on the grid.
Yeah.
How many times was Max beeped? How many times was Ricciardo beeped for celebrating?
Well, only twice.
I don't know. There was the pole position when he was absolutely tripping balls.
Yeah, yeah.
Or was it
Tripping major nutsack.
Tripping major nutsack, sorry.
Yeah, and BDE.
BDE.
Yep.
That's just Red. It's just Red Bull doing Red Bull things. They're going to be a lot. The only way to describe it is Red Bull in 2019 are going to be a lot less Red Bull for not having Danny Rick.
Yes. I don't think of Pierre Gasly. I may be doing him a disservice. I don't think of him as a sort of wacky, entertaining character.
I don't think he's had the chance in Toro
I
Rosso.
think maybe that's it. In Toro Rosso, you don't have personality until you graduate to the main team. They don't give you one until you're in the big car.
I think in the past when we've had like Sainz Verstappen in the Toro Rosso, yeah, they've had personalities, but this year they've been trundling around trying to make the Honda engine work as well as it can, and haven't had the opportunity to shine. So Pierre Gasly, he might be a lot of fun next year. Maybe.
He is going to be
knows?
Verstappen's teammate, though, so I don't know whether that'll be fun for him or not.
If he has too much fun, then Jos will probably punch him in the face or something.
Oh, Verstappen does his own punching these days, though, didn't he?
No,
With Ocon.
that is true.
No, he seemed to have inherited the Verstappen jab.
Yeah, I mean that was. That used to happen all the way through until about sort of 15 years ago. It wasn't a season without at least one driver fight, and it was usually after somebody had taken somebody else off.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what happened with Verstappen and Ocon. This year there was an incident.
It's just that rather than doing it on the circuit, which is the normal case, they waited to do it in front of the FIA official in the weighing room. Of course, they're going to get pulled for
Not
that.
good.
But yeah, Red Bull four wins in total this year, two each for each driver.
Bearing in mind that they're a distant third behind
Yeah,
behind
very,
Ferrari,
very distant
behind
third,
Mercedes.
and very much clearer fourth, completely in their own.
but they shouldn't
Space.
have a chance of winning.
No,
No, I mean they were Formula 1.25.
Yeah,
Possibly.
They should occasionally pick up a podium when the top guys don't finish. So they are doing really well to win 4 races in a season.
Yeah. Good quality car. When the engine worked, it was great. You can't question the amount of talent that they had behind the wheel.
it was just all reliability that stopped them
Yeah,
being
all
properly part of the
reliability
top three.
apart from when their two drivers hit each other.
That's not helpful. Yeah,
Yeah.
lack of
The whole Baku thing was a
Yeah.
little bit of an embarrassment.
lack of decision by the pit wall. I think that was the issue. They knew Ricciardo would go for that overtake, and they could have told Verstappen not to put up the fight, but
Would he have listened anyway? That's the thing, though, because you go back to when he was even in Toro Rosso, and the number of times he got told to... There was a couple of times he got told to let Sainz past and kicked off on the radio, even though they were on different strategies.
yeah, I think it's a different thing, isn't it? Red Bull and Ricciardo to Toro Rosso and Sainz. He might not have liked it. He wouldn't have liked the call, and he probably wouldn't have let him past straight away. But I think they demoted a driver last year for not doing what he was meant to do. The threat is there.
Well, what he was meant to do was not hit anyone,
Yes.
and he kept doing that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they would have demoted Verstappen if he was told to let Ricciardo past and put Gasly in the car, but yeah, he's seen that happen. That's how he got his drive in that team. So
True. But I'm with you, Dan. I think that was a great year for him, considering. What was it? 40 horsepower lower than Mercedes and Ferrari,
Something like that.
and that
yeah.
that was on a good day. And four wins when the drivers from the top two teams were still in there.
Yeah.
So there were sometimes they genuinely had the faster car.
yeah, the Monaco win for Ricciardo as well with the engine that was not
That was
the
more than 40 horsepower
MGUH or the
down.
MGUK wasn't working.
It was one of the MGUs,
Yeah.
and what was it? 150 horsepower he'd lost, and that was the only circuit where he could have actually done what he did
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And he rang the neck out of that car and managed to get it home without bursting into flames. That's one of the performances of the season, I reckon.
Yeah.
Very possibly.
Ferrari, then. Is this a review or is this an inquest?
A post-mortem.
Yeah, I mean, self-destructed? Could you call it that?
I don't think so, because part of it is Mercedes and especially Hamilton really pulling something special out of the bag when it looked like Ferrari had the upper hand. But yeah, part of it is Ferrari not making the most of things when they had the stronger car. They should have been able to win this season.
I mean, there's been stories coming out in the last couple of days since the whole Arrivederci thing was looking like it was going to happen, that Arrivederci was trying to push Vettel too hard, and he was trying to get him to drive in ways that he wasn't comfortable with and wasn't good at. And were they chasing the success that they didn't need to chase because it was coming to them, and they tried too hard and just blew it?
Possibly. Maybe overthought it a few times with strategy calls.
They had some very, very
There were some
strange ones of
weird
those
ones,
this
weren't
year.
there? Yeah.
I mean, how many times did we say that they were using Kimi as a mobile chicane when he was on tyres that were about 10 laps past the best,
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of their
just
tyre...
to hold somebody up, and it wasn't working.
I can't remember which race it was as well, where all the leaders had pitted quite early, and randomly they pitted Vettel for a second time, and everyone else stayed out. And it was very obvious that that's what was going to happen. I can't remember which one that was.
Might have been Japan.
It was towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
but
I
don't know
think
if
I think it could have been Japan because Vettel was sixth there and had lost places. But yeah, Ferrari it's hard to say one area that they got right and one area that they got wrong, because they were up and down in everything.
Yeah.
Some weeks they turn up with a car that was up to 2 or 3 tenths a lap faster than the Mercedes, and then they'd stick the wrong tyres on it and expect to make up the gap in a pit stop that wasn't going to happen.
On other weeks, they'd turn up with a car that was on a par with the Red Bulls and make some brilliant strategy calls and win races that they didn't deserve to win.
Yeah. So, where do you judge Ferrari?
There was there was qualifying. There was a couple of races towards the end of the season as well where it was a bit mixed conditions, and it just seemed whatever tyre they put on in Q3 was wrong.
Yeah.
I think was it Italy was one of them. I think possibly.
Yeah. Let's see.
I can't even remember what the weather situation was for that.
Kimi ended up with pole in Italy. And there was
Yes, he did, didn't
there was
he?
a video doing the rounds for ages. The Finnish commentator absolutely losing his shit when Raikkonen crossed the line.
It's a very unfinished thing to
To which
do.
Vettel's response was, "We'll talk about this later,"
I
because
remember that
Vettel had
one
had to
now,
give him a
yes,
toe.
Yes.
Or Vettel had been put in the position of giving him a toe when he thought it was the other way around. Obviously, the car was capable of pole because Raikkonen went and proved it, but Vettel thought he should have had the prime spot.
Yeah.
Obviously, it all got screwed up in the race when he ended up backwards.
As he did a few times.
Yeah, France as well with the collision with Bottas. He was good at losing the car. I asked Craig Scarborough during the season, is there a problem with the balance on there? And the slightest nudge throws anything completely out of shape and sends the car backwards. To which his answer was, no, Vettel just boots it when he gets touched and he gets it wrong.
It does seem to go round very easily, the Ferrari, obviously. Something Vettel's doing wrong rather than the car itself, but it did seem like it took nothing to...
You look at it funny and it's backwards.
It's off.
Which, that kind of sums Ferrari's season up. Don't look at them wrong, otherwise it'll completely go tits up.
I think we can be a little bit more positive about the Raikkonen season, though. He was like the perfect number 2 driver.
He had years of Bottas in it.
Yeah.
He didn't look like he deserved to be in that team. And then I think towards the end of 2017, he was looking more solid, and you were occasionally seeing racy Kimi. And then 2018, best Kimi season for ages.
Yeah. How many podiums did he get?
It was something like...
How many wins did he get?
More than usual.
One win, but one, two... I'm just looking at the... Because he had the podium streak between France and
Yeah.
Hungary.
That's 5 in a
That's
row, is
five
that?
in a row. We've got 6, 7, 8...
And bearing in mind that often he was being used as a chicane.
Yeah.
12 podiums. He finished on the podium over half the races this season.
That is crazy.
Now that isn't. He shouldn't be able to do that at his age. If Formula One is for the under 25s these days, which all the teams want you to believe it is. And he's what, 37?
No, he's 39.
39, isn't he? Yes.
Yeah, he will be 40. I think it's around about USA, his birthday. Maybe a little bit before.
Right.
It's in that neck of the
Yeah,
woods.
but
It's September,
By
October-ish.
rights, he should not be able to do that. And he dragged the hell out of that car. And still found time to write a poetry book.
Yeah.
Which there's still one available in the competition, which you've got until this weekend to get your entries into, which we'll give you the details later on. That just leaves us with Mercedes. Now, we've accused Haas of being the binary team, but I think it was Mercedes' turn this year. Because they had a world champion, and Valtteri Bottas also drove the car.
Yeah.
Bottas looked like one of the best drivers on the grid, though, for about the first 3 or 4 races, and he was just having bad luck. I think he did have a gearbox change in somewhere that dropped him down a bit. He had the puncture.
The puncture in Baku when he should have won.
But he genuinely looked pretty much just like he was having a little bit of a bad run, but it was going to come at some point and he'd be fine. And then he got the new contract in Germany, and then he was shit.
He just, yeah. Every time he finished a race, his lowest finishing position was 7th. He never actually crossed the line outside of the points all season.
Except for in Austria.
Where he
Didn't cross the line.
Yeah.
where he didn't cross the line, and Baku where he didn't finish, obviously, because he was still
of course,
classified
yeah.
14th because his puncture happened towards the end. But I don't know. He looked like a beaten man for most of the year.
I wonder if his contract was very different to what he was expecting.
What, instead of it saying
Instead of it
you
saying
will, you will
2
race for
years,
us, it'll
2 years equal number 1 status.
1 year number 2 status. Is it 1 year deal is signed again?
He is on a 1-year deal.
So,
I think it
that-
might be a 1-year deal with option, but I'm sure it was a 1-year
Yeah.
deal.
It's just been a rolling option since I signed him, and maybe that's the wrong way to treat him. I'm no sports psychologist, but they should have noticed by now that that's affecting him. Give him the deal up to 2021 if you intend to keep him in the car.
But
Yeah.
do they? Do they want Ocon in, really, don't they? It's just that he wasn't consistent enough this year.
They want Ocon or Russell or someone who is... I think they want Rosberg, really. They want someone who is going to be pushing Lewis,
Yeah.
not someone who's going
Yeah,
to...
Follow him.
and not be able to do 1-2s every weekend.
Because he hasn't, has he? He's not... He had quite a lot of seconds, but for the amount of wins that Lewis got, he wasn't
Did they
there often enough.
actually? I think Germany was
Spain, I think, was a 1-2.
Spain a 1-2. Yeah, I think they only had They only had
Italy
about
wasn't it?
1-3.
1-3.
Yeah, Raikkonen came second. I think they only had 4 1-2s this year, which for a team that prides itself on being dominant and at the front, and we can be capable of winning everything, you'd expect more.
And
Yeah.
of course, the teams can care about the Constructors' Championship. So you want the 1-2s because it helps you with the Constructors, lots of points. It helps you with the drivers because it means that the other guy is coming third instead of second.
Yeah. Pardon me. And yeah, it just wasn't there for him. Lewis, on the other hand,
Not a great deal went wrong for him, did it, really?
He won a few races that he possibly shouldn't have done. Didn't win a couple that maybe he should have done, but then...
Didn't Australia he should have won, but that
Australia
wasn't
he
his
should have
fault.
won, yeah. But then towards the back end of the season, just looked untouchable.
Winning after claiming the title as well for the first time ever.
yeah, that's never
It
happened.
does not. He did not switch off this year. It was
Yeah, he actually had
Business to the
two,
end.
two wins after Mexico,
shocking.
which, yeah. He was just, I mean, winning by, what was it in the end? 88 points?
Yeah, it's pretty good, really. Isn't
That's-
it? Three,
yeah.
3.5 wins.
Yeah. 3.5 race wins ahead of his nearest rival.
Was it really 88?
Yeah, he finished on 408. Vettel finished on 320.
Jesus.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we do get pulled up for sort of maybe praising Hamilton too much on the show, apparently, which I don't think we do.
I do think it's quite difficult to praise a multiple world champion too much.
That's the thing. He is the best.
When someone else starts winning multiple titles while we're podcasting, we'll start praising them.
He's the best.
Of
He's the
course,
best driver of this era.
Vettel is a multiple
Multiple, yeah.
world champion.
Yeah,
We praise Alonso quite a lot as well. Multiple world champion.
Lee does it more than anyone else. That's probably why we're not doing it too much tonight. But yeah, just an incredible year for him, and I'm looking forward to 2019 because there's going to be a lot of changes everywhere in every team,
Yeah.
and we'll be previewing that at some point in the near future.
Yeah, probably some point between testing and Australia, sort of start of Marchish,
Yeah, we'll-
maybe.
Yeah, but
When we
stick
can be
around
asked.
because we will be here. Right, he's not here this week, but I have got a total
Oh,
shunt
no.
in front of me.
Right, we're going to have to rearrange ourselves a bit because I can see your screen with its inaccurate Wikipedia table.
It's all right. I'm moving on to what I hope is an accurate total shunt.
It spoils it when it's accurate. I think we're used to it being slightly...
Yeah. A few
Erroneous.
questions that throw us off.
Right, who shall we have?
This is going to be one that
week?
you've had sat around for a little while, isn't it? Because this is from when Lee was on holiday last.
Yeah, this is actually from June. that I got sent this one.
Let's hope it's still factually accurate.
I think I fact-checked it earlier. This one is from Thomas Kramer. So
Thank you, Thomas.
Thomas.
Thank you for sending that one, Thomas. And I'll tell you how factually accurate it is. It starts properly. I was born in 1966.
Okay.
I won the Formula Renault Championship and came second in Formula 3.
So fairly standard.
Formula Renault Formula
F1.
Renault 1989, Formula 3 1991.
Okay.
And DAMS helped me become Formula 3000 champion.
Sounds fairly standard pre-F1.
Yeah.
Route at
Formula
this point.
3000, obviously now what is F2.
Yes.
So I'll need a first guess from you.
Was that 3 clues already?
That was 3
Jesus
clues. That
Christ.
was that was
Someone
3
who's-
clues. Hey, I'm quicker than I'm used to doing pub quizzes.
So,
Someone who's nearly 53. Would have been.
would have
from-
started in Formula One if they did drive in Formula One in the
in the
early to mid-90s.
90s, so mid-20s for them. How old's Damon Hill?
Very.
Yeah, he's a
He-
little bit older, isn't he?
He didn't have the normal path to Formula One. He
Ah.
was a motorbike racer, wasn't he?
That's true.
How old's DC?
I would say still in his 40s, but I could be wrong. I think he was late 30s when he retired, which was 2009.
Right, so
I
that
don't
put
think
him
he was
as-
quite 40 when he retired.
And he was young when he started in Formula One, wasn't he?
That's
For
true.
the time.
I've been to his museum and I've seen the
You have been to his museum.
Go-karts
Run by
and-
his sister, I
run
think?
by his sister in Twynham in Scotland. I brought you a polo shirt back from it.
Yes, I've still got it.
So someone of that sort of age, but a little bit
Maybe
older.
a little bit older than DC, but possibly not as old as Damon Hill.
So what's your first guess going to be?
Don't know.
Yeah, we're not allowed to do don't knows anymore, are we?
Oh no, Lee changed the rules. I think I'm not
Does
entirely
Lee
sure.
have rules? Realistically, does Lee have rules, or does Lee just go with whatever comes into his head on the moment? Could you imagine Lee as an F1 steward?
Oh, gee,
Oh,
no,
the whimsy.
no.
I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I've got nothing.
You want to hold off on this guess and I'll be generous. Hold off on this guess and
Or should we guess at DC and
Yeah, we'll throw
in the
DC
full knowledge
in
that
as
it's wrong?
Yeah.
okay. So you're throwing DC in as your first
Why
guess.
not?
Okay. Question 4, or clue 4. In my first season in Formula One, I got a podium.
Okay, so they got to Formula One.
That's a good start.
Getting a podium is usually a good
A
start. in your
very
first
good
season.
start, yes.
They're going to be 3 years older than Schumacher, aren't they?
They are going to be 3 years older than Schumacher if they were born in 1966, yes.
Most people who were born in 1966 are 3 years older than
They are.
Schumacher.
That's factually accurate.
Okay, 5th clue. My first seasons in Formula One were very blur.
So,
Can
someone
you
French?
spell blur?
BLEU.
So, someone French in a blue car. Who is
Have a-
French from the mid-90s? Olivier Panis?
Could be. When was the Prost team racing?
Ooh. Yeah, that would be
Because they were blue, weren't they? Or
95
blur.
96. It was after he'd retired, I think,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Clue 6.
Yes.
I was in Formula One for 10 seasons between 1994 and 2005.
Wow. That's a good stint. So 10 seasons, 94 to 2005. They've had a break somewhere because that's 12 seasons, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think my vape needs changing.
Die quietly while we try and...
Trying to hold the microphone away from my
So,
mouth.
in 2005...
Oh, and I will need a guess on this one.
I'm trying to do maths.
Okay.
In 2005, this person at the end of the season would have been nearly 40.
Yeah.
Who would have been kicking about then and old? And possibly French.
Possibly French.
Or with some kind of French connection.
Gene Hackman.
What? I think is Panis a bit too young?
I don't know. I've not really got a great quantity of knowledge on Panis. I also
We
wouldn't
need Chris
have said
here.
he was about for that quantity of time.
No.
I don't feel like he had a 10-year career.
Just as an aside, I can see why Lee loves doing this. I love the power that you get from asking the questions.
It's fucking easy when you're sat there with the answer in front of you, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I know it is.
Bruno's come to help us.
People like Heinz Harald Frentzen, Jarno Trulli,
Jarno Trulli was about later than
a
that.
little bit later.
Yeah. He was about sort of 2008, 2009-ish with Toyota.
So, your second guess.
Do we want to go for Panis or Frentzen?
I do not know.
Should we throw Panis in there?
That's your second guess.
Let's throw Panis in there. What year was it that he won Monaco?
Ooh, don't know.
All right. Clue 7.
Not a clue.
I didn't compete in one season because I wanted to be a test driver, and this gave Jensen Button a drive.
Wanted to be a test driver. Does anyone want to be a test driver?
I wouldn't have thought you did, but it would be someone who was asked to test for, say,
A good team. Someone
Ferrari.
going from back of the grid to a good team
yeah,
on the hope that someone retires and they get an in.
yeah. But that would have meant that they didn't drive for Williams. Now, who would in the 90s turn down a race seat with Williams?
Yeah. But presumably if this created an opening for... Yeah, if this created an opening for Jensen, yeah. I don't know.
Do you want the next clue?
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, we're on to number 8. I scored the last victory for one of the teams I drove with.
Pastor Maldonado.
I think he was more recent.
Yes. So, teams that have a barren spell, to the extent they may not be around anymore. It is going to be someone that's not about anymore, isn't it? Because I would have thought team-wise.
Well, Ferrari have had recent victories.
Yes.
Mercedes weren't around in the 90s.
No.
Williams,
Maldonado.
McLaren would probably be Hamilton.
Or Jensen. That year.
Yeah. And we know it's not Jensen.
No. Sauber would be Kubica when it was BMW.
Yeah, that's a bit late.
Renault was Alonso.
So, Jordan.
Jordan is an interesting shout. Not sure who. Sounds like Dan's had a brainwave.
There's thinking going on.
There is thinking going on.
Ah.
How old's Johnny Herbert?
Ooh. Yeah, I'd probably say
We should know all this.
early to mid-50s.
Sky show the Johnny Herbert story every 3 hours.
Yeah, but I don't think they go for date of birth. I think they go for he had a crash,
But he did score one of the last wins for Stewart. One of the only
Okay.
wins for Stewart.
Yes.
And he started... Did he start in a Benetton, which was a bit blur and a bit green?
Were Benetton French? Would that be why they were blur rather than blue? Or do we think someone might have just typoed?
They were United Colours.
United
Yeah.
Colours of. That's a good shout. I think he is the new front runner.
You've still got a couple more clues before
Okay.
before you have to give your last guess. Clue 9. I have a 50% finishing record in the 24 hours of Le Mans.
So it's someone who's done at least 24 hours of
Yes.
Le Mans.
Or finished half a time?
I'll give you a clue. Entered it 4 times.
Ah. I don't know.
And finished in
of
the
Johnny
same position
Herbert
in the
having
2
done
races he
24
finished in.
hours of Le Mans. I think given that his leg isn't fantastic, an endurance
endurance
race might
racing-
not be ideal for him.
Doesn't seem like his scene. So who else can we think of who's had one of the last victories for teams?
Yeah, you can just look at some drivers and go, yeah, I bet they pee in the seat.
What was it Ricardo was talking about the other day? We had something on where Ricardo was going on about sometimes he just does a little excitement wee.
Excitement tinkle.
Sorry, yes, a tinkle.
Right. My train of thought was off the rails to start with, but that's just completely...
That's taken you
Derailed it, yeah.
somewhere else entirely.
And your last clue,
Yes.
clue number 10, although there is a spaffer should you need it.
I
think
think
we
we'll need
might.
that, yeah.
Okay. I have done an F1 season in which I missed 7 races as the result of an accident. And I will need your final guess after this unless you want the spaffer.
I'm struggling. Dan is pulling some faces.
Yeah. 'Cause I nearly said an answer that I've already ruled out, which was, well, I was thinking, who was around in the early 90s
Yes.
who would have missed that many races in a season? Michael Schumacher broke his leg.
Yes, he did.
But we've ruled him out
He
because
is not 53.
he is not 53.
He's very 50.
Yes.
The app says so.
And was around beyond 2005. I have absolutely zero inspiration.
There is a spaffer clue should you want it.
I think we're going to need it.
Yes.
You're going to need it. I won a very crazy Monaco Grand Prix, which didn't go the full distance.
Should we go back to
Is this Panis again?
Olivier Panis? Yeah.
I think it's the best option.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
we
go
will,
with
we will
Panis.
go for Panis.
I am Olivier Panis.
Woohoo!
Nice one.
That's frustrating. How
That was-
early did we mention him?
I think Frenton was the last person to win in a Jordan.
Ah.
Which is when you were saying Frenton, and I gave I won the last race of my team clue. I thought you'd stick with him. No, that is a great one. Thanks for that one, Thomas.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
That was challenging.
It was challenging, but
As
challenging
they
is
should
good.
be.
But we did at least mention the right person somewhere along the route.
And the guessing team isn't at full strength.
No,
There's
it's
only
2
two
people
of us
and a
instead
cat.
Of, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Who
no,
seems
it's
to-
normally 3 people
Bruno
guessing.
didn't give any suggestions.
It is useless.
If you want to send in a total shunt, then the best way to do it, usually, I would say, is send Lee a private message on Twitter to @a_total_shunt. Or if you want to send some to us so that we can do one when Lee's not about, just like he isn't about this week, drop us an email, 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, and I'll put those in the emergency spare total shunt file. And one day I'll get revenge on Lee and I'll do the questions when he's there, and that'll be fun. Another thing Lee's not here for is Formula Lee, the start of the winter series. I think we're going to go on to classic cars for the next couple of months.
That is our winter tradition, isn't
It
it?
is.
Since last
Since
year.
last year.
Last year.
Now it's the
Tradition
second.
of
now,
2 years.
Now it's the second year. It's become a tradition rather than a thing. So I reckon. How does the 1972 Lotus sound?
I can't remember.
Apart from noisy, and like a Formula One car should.
We can give it a go, can't we?
Yeah. So I reckon 1972 Lotus in the dry.
You.
This is the advantage of Lee not being here.
We'll start it off nice and easy. And I reckon we should do Monza.
So
how-
nice and easy, fastest track on the calendar.
Exactly. Get you all into it because the grip on the rear end of that car is
Yeah.
something spectacularly missing. God knows how anyone managed to drive it in a straight line. So, yeah, 1972 Lotus 72D in the dry in Monza. It's a 2-week challenge. You have until the 21st of January to get it in. You can send me a friend request on PlayStation Network if you haven't already. I'm Pabstar, and I'll be able to see your times on the leaderboard. Send a screenshot in of your time on Twitter and a direct message to @3legs4wheels, or private message on Facebook, or email the screenshot to 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, and I'll get the details up on the website. I'm going to have to start doing the website stuff again, aren't I?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been that long. Just a quick mention for the competition that we've still got going for one more week for the Kimi Räikkönen haiku book. We want you to write your own Formula One haiku. 5 lines, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. We've had quite a few entries in.
Speaking style.
It pretty much. There's way too many in there. Bwah, 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 bwah.
But that's okay.
Beer.
There's your first line.
Yeah, that'll do. Don't use that one, it's already been claimed.
Yes.
Send those in, slightly different email address, competition@3legs4wheels.com, and the closing date, if I remember rightly, is it's sometime this weekend. I think it's this Saturday. I'm gonna have to double check because normally I write things down. I haven't done because, well, we're all over the place tonight. But have a look on the website 3legs4wheels.com, and that is there. The closing date is Friday the 11th. So you've still got a few days to get your entries into that. If you want to get in touch with us, I've given you the Twitter, I've given you the email address. You can get us individually on Twitter at
Sean Cowper.
At Dan Dankleton.
at Pablo100, and also at Flood21 and at A Total Shunt. That's about it for this week, and we'll be back, I'll say soon. Maybe next week.
It depends on the news,
News-
doesn't it?
News has been scarce.
Depends on the
but
news. Maybe next
Ferrari
week.
have started doing news, and
But
maybe others will have news.
Definitely the week after. Because we'll have a competition and a Formula E result to announce on the 21st, if
Yes.
nothing else. Good to be back. Happy New Year again,
Happy New Year.
and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.